Hi, family, and welcome to our Thinking Things Tuesday. So, today we all know it's Tuesday, and we decided to do our work while there was still light and stop using uh, the dark to do our work. So, for today, we decided that for our Thinking Things, we're going to start doing our work during the day so that you can actually see each other. So, hi, people, and welcome to Kosa Chick TV, and it's Tuesday. And like any other Tuesday on Thinking Tanks, what we do is we look at current affairs news of what has been going on in South Africa and sometimes around the world. It depends on our mood. As we all know, last week, if you are following the Thinking Tanks Tuesdays on this channel, that we were busy with the looting. We also touched on the Pegasus spy software or something, and also we discussed a lot of things. But then for today, like any other Tuesday, we are going to have a look on what's making news, what's making headlines in South Africa and maybe a bit around the world as well. But lately there hasn't been much news happening, and yes, still the Olympics taking place. And yes, in the Olympics, the only ridiculous thing which is happening is the fact that I heard from one of the news channel I follow that one of, I think it was Norway's, what you call that now, what you play, the volleyball team, which were fined because of changing the dress code. Instead of wearing those typical panties or costumes, they wore something which was more like a boxer, so it was more like covering up. So they were fined for that because apparently women are supposed to wear a certain type of dress code, which is very discriminating though, because some of us dropped in most cases when in most sports when we started being old because of the dress code. Because on days whereby you don't feel like yourself having your period, how do you play volleyball with a panty on and you have to lift up your legs and do all of those things? Do men even consider that fact that somewhere, somehow, at least once in a blue moon, women needs to cover up double they underneath? So this thing of wearing skimpy, like your gymnastics, your what you call it, which they do on the floor, that women must wear skimpy revealing clothes, it doesn't work at the end of the day, because you can only take that until a certain point, and then you kind of feel like you are too exposed, and you start questioning yourself, are people really admiring my work, my talent, or are just impressed by what they see in the revealness in this? So that, I said, big ups to the team for standing up for themselves. We as women, we need to stand up more often together and stop at falling victim into men's rules, because sometimes those rules just don't work. They just perverted rules. And what else? Oh, it's Women's Month. Happy Women's Month to all the women out there. So this month we're not discussing anything when it comes to Women Month. We just want to address the pink text. So if you don't know what's the pink text, please do find out what does it mean and so on. I'm not sure. I haven't really done my research properly when it comes to South Africa, where we stand when it comes to the pink text. But I know for a fact, without doing much research, when you go shopping, you'll find out that when you're buying razor blades, women razor blades are more expensive than men's, and all of those things. Women have to buy a shampoo and all of those things, and the men only buy. So pink shampoo, pink text means all of those essentials for women, which they get to be taxed more, they get to be priced more than men stuff. So that's what we need to address this month, whereby we are already not on the working list the highest as women. We are still the minority when it comes to men, and most women drop out when they become parents and when they get married. So still, when it comes to buying essential stuff, still when it comes to being a woman in this world, you have to pay double more than the men. But then there's no resources and there's no space for you to grow and be what you want, so that you can pay for your existence. So that's what the pink text is all about. And I feel like this is the right month to discuss it or to address it, seeing that it's Women's Month. And we also touched on the taxi violence in the Western Cape. So apparently from yesterday, I believe there was an agreement signed and the taxis were back normal. But I'm not sure today because I didn't use the public transport. But apparently the taxis are back again, and it has been a hassle because from my side, you'll find out that they will be there in the morning, and then in the afternoon, when you have to use them, they're not there anymore. Here we go. Mbalula Mitchell's Princess takes Operation Pal after peace talk. Okay, as we were saying, I think I already got something in front of me about the taxis. So, from what I've heard yesterday, yesterday around about 5 o'clock, a peace agreement was agreed on by the taxis, and then the taxis were going to be back online again. So without wasting any time, in front of me I've got eyewitness news. This was Kalen Palm, and it was 6 hours ago, and it says Mbalula Michelle SS takes operations in Pal after peace deal inked. Okay, I hope I'm saying this, but it looks like Mitchell. Okay. Cape Town Transport Minister Fikile Mbalula is visiting Pal on Tuesday morning to assess taxi operations a day after inking a peace deal that he called epic. The minister announced on Monday that Carter and Codet had agreed to bury the hatchet after a year of violence and bloodshed, but he warned that the road to stability was long. The route at the center of the conflict remains closed for the moment, but other services are slowly getting back to normal. Transport Minister Mbalula said the measures had been put in place to transport commuters where necessary. We are here to basically assure commuters that we are working very hard to get things back to normal, but bake the same to assess Brazil's capacity. They've promised us that they have about 45 trains that have been increased on this line, the minister said. There's a heavy police presence here at the PAL station, with commuters rushing to and from trains. Luke Changwisa is one of them. He just hopped off a train from Kraaifontein. Metro rail is a cheaper option than the taxis, but he said that it was an inconvenience. There's long queues at the Kraaifontein train station with people buying tickets. We have to wake up early because we come from a hectic ward. It's dangerous. Where are we now? Let me see. People buying tickets. Okay, I think I just know. There's long queues at the Kraaifontein train station with people buying tickets. We have to wake up early because we come from a hectic ward. It's dangerous at that time, and there's a lot of criminals trying to grab our bags, but we can't do anything about it because we want to work. Western Cape Transport MEC Dylan Mitchell and Mbalula will be assessing the contingency measures in place and plan to take the train into Cape Town themselves. That was that for now, because now they were just focusing on the train. Mbalula will ensure commuters have transport despite. Okay, here's another one. Let's just continue with the Mbalula in transport, because I thought this one was the one from yesterday where they were making the peace agreement. Okay, this is an hour ago, and it's still by the same person, and it's Eyewitness News. It says Cape Town Transport Minister Fikile Mbalula on Tuesday said they would ensure commuters got where they needed to go despite the continued closure of a key taxi route. On Monday, rival organizations Carter and Codeta agreed to ceasefire and peace deal, but authorities decided to keep the route between Paarl and Bellville closed until they are sure that agreement will hold. Mbalula said they will organize extra trains to ferry people along the route. We've got a long-term program of action in terms of PRASA to ensure that the service is back on track despite the fact that this is a crisis, but this will also help PRASA get its house in order and support our people as they commute to work every day. Meanwhile, a Cape Town taxi driver has been arrested for the possession of an illegal firearm. Was pulled over at a roadblock in the Millerton area on Tuesday morning. Metro Police spokesperson Ruth Solomon said officers noticed he was wearing a bulletproof vest and had a firearm holster on his side. Officers then found a 9mm pistol and 5 rounds of ammunition, but the driver couldn't produce a license for the firearm. So that's what we all around the news of the text was. So there seems to be a peace agreement. We don't know how true is that and how long that will last. And then on the ANC now, it is ANC Integrity Committee hands over Mkhize reports, because that's the other one which you want to know what's happening. This is from ENCA. It says and it joined in 1 hour. ANC Integrity Committee hands over Mkhize reports. Do I have to press a like anyway here? Let me see. I normally press a like. Okay, let's just press a like first and read after. So it says here, Health Minister Zweli Mkhize is implicated in the irregular awarding of a communications contract to the company. Johannesburg. The ANC's Integrity Committee has handed over its report on the digital vibes and scandal to the party. Health Minister Zweli Mkhize is implicated in the irregular awarding of a communications contract to the company. The committee's chairperson, George Mashamba, has reportedly confirmed Mkhize was questioned about the multi-million rand deal. The governing party's leader are expected to unpack the report at the next ANC-NEC meeting, while President Cyril Ramaphosa is yet to give feedback on the SIU report, which has implicated Mkhize. So that's what is happening at the ANC. What else is interesting? Western Cape residents' credit card debts are in for treat in July. Backlog operations back to normal after cyber attack Transnet. Although this is the one I didn't get about Transnet and the cyber attack, which I'm interested in. Twitter takes action against Duduzane Zambuga for sharing. Okay, let's hear this one. Apparently, this is Times Live. Twitter takes action against Duduzile Zuma Sambudla for sharing unrest clips. Unathi Kanjeni 8 hours ago. Remember, with the whole looting, those are the Zuma children, which were also kind of involved with trying to stir up whatever was happening in South Africa. So apparently Twitter takes action now, and this is, I say it was Unathi Kanjeni, and that was 8 hours ago. It's a social media network. Twitter has taken action against former President Jacob Zuma's daughter, Duduzile Zuma Sambudla, after she shared clips of the violent protest and looting in KwaZulu-Natal on her account. On Monday, Twitter users reported Zuma Sambudla for sharing the clips received a notification from the app confirming she had violated the app's rules. The videos and images she shared were taken in several areas in the province before the unrest and looting broke out in Gauteng. According to Twitter's rules, the complaints against the clips shared by Zuma Sambudla may fall under terrorism, violent extremism. Examples of the type of content that violate this policy include, but are not limited to, engaging in or promoting acts on behalf of violent organization, recruiting for a violent organization, providing or distributing services, for example, financial media propaganda to further a violent organization's state goals, and using the insignia of symbol of violent organizations to promote them or indicate affiliation or support. Times Live looked through Zuma Sambudla's account and found the videos have not yet been removed. One image she shared on July 9 was flagged by Twitter, saying it was presented out of context. The original image is from 2020, according to Africa Check and BBC News Africa. Zuma Sambudla has not commented on the reports leveled against her. EFF leader Julius Malema's Twitter account was temporarily suspended last month for breaking the social media platform's rules. He was prohibited from tweeting, sharing tweets, and linking posts. The platform did not give reasons behind the suspension of his account. Before the account suspension, Malema had called for EFF supporters to oppose the deployment of soldiers in areas affected by violent protests and looting. According to Cybersecurity Act, any person who unlawfully makes available, broadcasts, or distributes or using a computer system a data message to a specific person, group, or persons or the public with the intention to incite violence or call people to be involved in the destruction of any property belonging to people is guilty of an offense. The Act states those who engage. Oh gosh. What the hell? So family, my laptop just switched off. I don't know. I think the battery was flat. I just put it in the charger now while I was reading that story of Zuma's daughter being red flagged by Twitter. So yeah, that's how that story goes. I'm not gonna try to go look for it now and try to see what happened. But in front of me, I've got another Jacob Zuma. Just don't know what happened to this laptop while I was busy. I've got Independent Online, ROL, 6 hours ago. So Jacob Zuma's daughter, Jabu Zuma, takes aim at Neon Campbell. So that one, I didn't know. I really don't know what happened there because it just switched off, went blank. And then I have to restart. But anyway, sometimes the glitch just happens. So in front of me now, I'm not sure what's going on now. Today something is just not working with me. In front of me, I've got IOL, and it says Jacob Zuma's daughter, Jabu Zuma, takes aim at Neom Campbell. It is by Liam Karabo Joyce, and 6 hours ago. And it says former President Jacob Zuma's daughter, Jabu Zuma, hit back at British model Neom Campbell, who pinned a letter to the jailed former president. An open letter addressed to the British supermodel, Jabu said that she was not qualified to speak on Zuma's affairs. In her open letter posted on Instagram, Naomi said that the recent looting and destruction of scores of businesses in KwaZulu-Natal and Gauteng had threatened to undo what the late former President Nelson Mandela had fought hard to achieve. Each day you defy the court and stock division, you take a step backwards from Madiba's vision for SA to prosper and for there to not only be equitable political justice, but also economic justice, wrote Campbell. She said the recent civil unrest that made international headlines was not the South Africa that she remembered, nor was it the one that had been exemplary to the rest of the world, and called for Zuma to end his defiance. I have watched how over the last few years you have protested your innocence. You have protested your innocence at the allegations tabled against you of corruption and allowing mass state capture. I have seen you go out of your way to avoid having to deal with these matters in court and avoiding a commission set up to investigate state capture, Naomi wrote. Naomi continued, you have talked of the rule of law and the South African Constitution being something that should apply to everyone, yet you defied the courts and were sentenced to 15 months in prison. Now, upon your incarceration, a group of protests under the Free Zuma banner broke out in igniting the worst violence and criminality South Africa has seen since the end of apartheid. She went on to say that the protest will have a long-lasting effect. She also said that if the former president considered himself a leader, he should act like one. If you still consider yourself a leader, then please act and take responsibility like one. Agreed to finish your appearance in front of the State Capture Commission, and equally you will have your days in court to contest the corruption charges alleged against you. But the nation first, put the nation first, she said. Dear former president. Okay, this the letter when Campbell wrote it here. It's like a whole long letter. I'm not sure if I'm gonna read it. Following this, Jabu hit back saying Naomi knew nothing about South African history or the sacrifices made by her father towards South Africa's democracy. What you remember South Africa to be is not and has never been a reflection of the true South Africa, she said in the letter, which was shared by one of the more vocal of Zuma's children, Duduzile, on her Twitter page. If you had actually been watching President Zuma over the last few years, as you claim, you will be well aware of the fact that all he has ever called for was a fair trial. He has been more than willing to stand in front of a court and prove his innocence, Jabu said. She said many of the delays in Zuma's court appearance were as a result of the state calling for postponements, except for a few incidents where Zuma missed appearances because of incidents beyond his control. She denied that her father was evading the State Capture Commission. President Zuma has never had an issue with appearing before the commission. He's done so previously. His issue lies with having to appear before Deputy Chief Justice Raymond Zondo, said Jabu. On the looting and unrest that followed in the days after Zuma's incarceration, Jabu said that unrest was beyond her father. The civil unrest is bigger than President Zuma's arrest. South Africans are hungry, impoverished, unemployed, and tired of living in a country where the government marginalizes them. As history shows, when the poor have nothing else to eat, they eat the rich, Jabu added, highlighting what she claimed to be failure of the current government under the leadership of President Cyril Ramaphosa. Jabu said that Naomi was in no position to share her views on Zuma's vision and his part in the struggle for democracy. You're simply not qualified and must be diluted to think you could ever make recommendations on what Zuma should do, she concluded. So Zuma's children are anybody which speaks. Anyway, I'm not there. Suspects made off with 13 firearms after robbing police station. That's the Hawks. Poor soul down your drain. Internet contents of Mkiza reports. This one we already read. Backlog. Biglimbalula. Which story was I looking for? Moshekha, we are using different measures to address capacity issues at schools. Oh, COVID counting on track cross 2 million jobs like a bomb ticket. Sean Kiza reveals she's been dealing with the life-threatening. Why am I reading? Western Cape taxis back on some route as rivals return to negotiate. Okay, let's see. So waiting live. So today there's not much news happening. My laptop is also acting out. It just doesn't want me to get certain news. So we'll see how we do this. Okay, here we've got the Sowetan Live. It says Western Cape takes us back on some routes as rivals return to negotiating table. This is Belinda Peto. It was 8 hours ago. So it says this after negotiations between the two warring associations resumed. Western Cape takes us back on some routes as rivals return to negotiating table. This after negotiations between the two warring associations resumed. This is according to a joint statement issued by the National Department of Transport and the Western Cape Department of Transport and Public Works. In a statement issued on Monday afternoon, the two departments said arbitration conversations between the Cape Amalgamated Taxi Association, CATA, and the Congress of Democratic Taxi Association, CODETA, were back underway after the collapse of the initial mediation process. In the light of this, taxi operators with valid operating permits may resume service in their operating areas, except for B97 route between route Mbekweni in Paarl to Bellville, which will remain closed. We appreciate that this closure is not only an inconvenience. We appreciate that this closure is not only an inconvenience to those who rely on this mode of transport, but also to operators who are not making any income as a result. The statement read: the government said that their intervention constitutes tangible action to stabilize the taxi industry operations in the Western Cape, and said it will continue to work closely with other law enforcement authorities to ensure the safety of the public and ensure the rule of law underpins operations. All associations must instruct their members to return to service in line with the authorities issued with their operating license, and must do so in a manner that is safe for the public. The Registrar's Office will send out a letter to all associations communicating these instructions. All routes will be monitored and action will be taken against associations and individual operating license holders who are in breach of this instruction, reads the statement. The government committed to meet the appointed arbitrator to expedite the arbitration process and to issue an award within the shortest possible time frame, but it warned that should there be further acts of violence, all affected routes operated by the two associations will be closed for all minibus taxi operations for a period determined by the MEC, and affected operating licenses will be suspended. In addition, both associations will be suspended or deregistered by after the prescribed process. This will be done in the interest of public safety, and other operators will be authorized to provide replacement services, reads the statement. The government said any other associations found to be involved in or promoting violence will be suspended, and that any association found to be operating outside its geographical area will be suspended by the Registrar's Office. On the ongoing violence in the province, the government said it will ask the police to open an inquiry in terms of the Prevention of Organized Crime Act and prioritize the investigation of reported cases, but also said law enforcement capacity and deployment will be reviewed and strengthened in the affected areas to ensure enforcement of all laws without fear or favor. Any allegations of corrupt activities or clear acts of favoritism on the part of law enforcement or regulatory officials will be investigated based on evidence submitted by complainants, read the statement. So that was the statement which we see here. We know, Enjimushekha now. No. It's the party with the rich spaces on uncertain. COVID South Africa record new case and 24th. It's on the news. So I don't think we have much going on today. It's the same news. They're trying to find peace with the taxi violence in the Western Cape. The cleaning up still continues after the looting. People going to NC Kanjurmantong, let's race for Joburg Mayor. Okay, and yeah. So that's what has been going on. I don't think we have much going on, or we're gonna drag this news. If we drag it any So I think there's not much interesting news taking place in front of me. There's not even with the international news. Mshekha, let's see, back on social media after 10 months, UTS, okay, Phoenix, Jackie Chan in court for the hate speech. Okay, everything now it's about the cleaning up after the looting and so on. So there's more news on the entertainment side because we know on the entertainment side, Shona Ferguson has passed away. Condolences to his family. That's the bad news, sad news about what happened this weekend. Okay, let's see now here. Becky Cele. It says this is the South African and it's Andrea. I don't know how to say the surname, but it was written 5 hours ago. It says, let's just press a like. It says, butchered, beaten, burned. Cele reveals grim details of Phoenix murders. While nearly 350 people lost their lives during the unrest in KwaZulu-Natal and Gauteng in July, the chaos that unfolded in Phoenix was particularly gruesome. Police Minister Becky Cele, who held a media briefing on Tuesday, 3 August, revealed explicit details of the horror and trauma that played out just a few weeks ago. A total of 36 people lost their lives in Phoenix. 30 people who were killed a total of 36 people lost their lives in Phoenix. 30 people who were killed were shot, 2 were burned to death, 1 was stabbed and another was run over by a vehicle. In total, police are investigating 52 cases of attempted murder and probing 9 cases of common assault and 16 cases of assault. GBH, but even that description is just the tip of the iceberg as to what actually played out in Phoenix. Particular incidents sparked ghastly scenes in Phoenix. Cele set the record straight and revealed the details of what took place in Phoenix. He said that on 12 July, community members set up blockades and patrolled the streets after mass looting and unrest in Durban. While some people in Phoenix set up armed checkpoints at strategic access points to the area, the situation rapidly deteriorated and soon violent scenes played out. The problem started when some people operating the checkpoints turned to vigilantism and started racially profiling people, preventing them entering to the suburb. This amounted to unlawful discrimination and a restriction of movement for mainly African people, said Cele. As described by Cele, a buggy carrying looted items was stopped and searched at one of the checkpoints in Phoenix. 4 occupants inside the buggy fired shots at the community and the community returned fire. The suspects fled, but the shootout resulted in the death of 1 person and the injury of 3 others. Cele believes that this incident sparked other incidents of stoning and the burning of vehicles and further violence, including shootings, stabbings, and assaults. Assaulted with baseball bats, bricks, and sticks. Cele said it is alleged that some motorists were robbed and cars were ransacked at these road closures in Phoenix. Some motorists were allegedly forcefully taken out of their motor vehicles and then assaulted with baseball bats, bricks, and sticks. Some people were even butchered with bush knives and other sharp instruments, he said. It is alleged that some people were shot and killed and their vehicles were set alight, he added. Cele said what happened in Phoenix were criminal acts of the worst kind, which also took a racial turn. These acts have no place in our society and the perpetrators will be arrested and prosecuted. He added, working closely with communities in and around Phoenix, 22 suspects have been arrested thus far. So yeah, that's what is happening with the Phoenix, and the Phoenix the saga and story is just something else on its own, because with the while people were looting the malls and so on, I really don't know in Phoenix who gave the people the right to just start doing vigilantism, because that's where it started from. I'm not saying they should have let the people to go and loot, but they could have called the police to come and guide them, because now you see people feel like they were doing the honoring thing to guide, sake their staff and so on, forgetting that you do not have a right to kill, you do not have a right to take the law into your own hands. So that's what the Phoenix is all about. And that one, I just want to find out more information before I can say my 2 cents, because this is South Africa. That's all. Because that one kind of feels like if you have little in South Africa, then automatically you are a criminal, and those which have something must guide their stuff or must guide the properties against you by any means as necessary. Okay, this is the one I was reading when my computer went blank. I'm not going back there. The Twitter takes action against Tutuzile Zuma Sambula. That's one which my computer just decided to go blank when I was reading it, but then you get the gist that she might be in trouble on Twitter streets because of what she tweets or what she shares. And yeah. And then Kele's Gala to update on situation in Phoenix. We finished with the Western Cape taxi back on some roads. We finished with that one. So as I said, family, we're not going to be too long today. That's all we have for today. I don't think there's any more, and I don't see anything wow about the Olympics. I know we've been coming home slowly but surely. So Bennett says Israel able to act alone against Iran over ship attack. UK financial plans to buy out fossil fuel plants in order to shut them. The latest real pandemic training works in Scotland. Invest Malaysia leader in Limbo as the Prime Minister. So yeah, I think that's all we'll be doing for today, family. I don't want to drag this woman short date. There's just all your basic news, and I don't want to push it. So we know that America has left Afghanistan. Let's see how's that. USA soldiers have left Afghanistan after 20 years into deployment, and things don't look very good for Afghanistanians, because the Taliban apparently have taken over where the America are living, and the Afghanistans feel like they are back into the same, being unsafe and so on. But this is Sky News. It says next few weeks pivotal for Afghanistan as humanitarian crisis looms. This is Dominique Wenghorn, diplomatic editor, and it was written 1 hour ago. So it's Sky News. Okay, it says the next few weeks will be pivotal for the future of Afghanistan, with ominous implications of its people who face a looming humanitarian disaster, but also for the prestige, power, and influence of the West. The Taliban has advanced faster than many had expected, seizing swaths of territory, key border crossings, and now threatening 3 provincial capitals. Ben Berry, Senior Fellow for Land Affairs and the International Institute for Strategic Studies, said all eyes are now on Herat in the west and Kandahar and Lashkar Gah in the south. If these provincial capitals fall, then the Afghan government is in a very difficult position, he said. If most of all of these provincial capitals hold, then the chance are the Afghan government itself can continue to hold, and the longer the Afghan government holds, then the weaker is the negotiating position of the Taliban. Continue reading. So remember I told you that Americans left, the Taliban moved in. The immediate fear is of an impending humanitarian disaster. Terror of the Taliban and a looming civil war is forcing tens of thousands to flee their homes. Former UN Special Representative to the Secretary General of Afghanistan, Tadamir Yamamoto, has years of experience in the country. He told Sky News the situation is deeply alarming, with so many people on the move and far worse than anything he witnessed there until now. It's very serious, he said. It's an extremely large number, much larger than acceptable, and I think the international community has to step up its commitment to aid. The international community has to speak out with unequivocal voice together. 2 decades after the invasion of Afghanistan and the toppling of the Taliban, US President Joe Biden ordered the withdrawal of forces. Talks between the Taliban and Afghan government are continuing in Qatar. Those talks are stalled while the fighting intensifies. The Tadmikhyamamoto urged international powers to put their weight behind reinvigorating the diplomatic process. We are seeing a real tragic situation where civilians and others are going to be sacrificed, and that is totally unnecessary because the talks will bring the political forces to compromise and create a new future for Afghanistan. This week, former U.S. commander in the country, General David Petraeus, criticized the decision to withdraw, saying America had abandoned Afghanistan to a bloody and brutal civil war. He condemned the decision to announce withdrawal before talks were complete. Britain lost more than 450 lives in 2 decades of fighting in Afghanistan. America, more than 2,000, tens of thousands of Afghan civilians have died. More than $2.25 trillion was spent there. If the Taliban prevails and is able to win the clock back to 2001, those sacrifices will have been in vain. The next few weeks will test the Taliban's ability to mount a sustained military campaign. In the past, it has suffered severe losses in attempts to take provincial capitals, but the Afghan forces holding them now have less access to U.S. air power, and U.S. advisors are no longer able to deploy on the ground. Either way, the failure of America and its allies to win the war in Afghanistan has long-lasting implications for the West. The history of the country and the military failures of Britain and Russia, they may have made the recent debacle seem inevitable, but there was a chance, say observers, to succeed there, an opportunity squandered by the temptation to invade Iraq. Mr. Berry told Sky News the decision to attack Iraq was as disastrous as Napoleon's decision to attack Russia or Hitler's decision to attack the Soviet Union, and that's the biggest single reason why the war in Afghanistan sailed into so much difficulty. Resources, attention and diplomatic bandwidth were diverted from Afghanistan to Iraq, and the occupation and its abusers undermined the credibility and legitimacy of the U.S. The decision to lose 2 wars at such cost will surely be seen by historians as monumental hubris. In the nemesis that followed, the West's rivals, Russia, China, and Iran, have watched and learned, Mr. Berry said. They will be saying to themselves, we've seen the weaknesses of the West and the Western way of war, and we are more confident in our own military capabilities than they are in theirs. Russia and Iran have applied those lessons already to the war in Syria. China has adjusted its tactics and hardware as it has modernized its military over the past 20 years. And other countries looking on the wheel have drawn their own conclusions about the West's ability to prevail and protect its interests and those of its allies. Follow the daily podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Sticker. Oh gosh, where am I now? There will be countries who are allies of the US and UK who will wonder if they are threatened. Will the US and UK come to their aid, or will they be scared off by the prospect of casualties, said Berry. 2.26 trillion later, the West has seen the strategic confidence of allies undermined by its record in Afghanistan and the confidence of rivals grow. And the country where so much blood and treasure was spilled is heading back towards civil war, chaos, and the possible supremacy of an ultra-conservative Islamist theocracy. So that's what is happening in Afghanistan. So, as I said, in Afghanistan, what's happening, the USA, Joe bin Laden, decided to withdraw his troops. And the minute he withdrew his troops, Taliban moved in. And it seems like the Taliban want to take over the whole Afghanistan. So the government of Afghanistan is in bad shape. So it seems like the Taliban is getting more power now, because there's no more there's no more Americans to help Afghanistan anymore. So those parts whereby the Taliban couldn't go through, or couldn't really, like, maybe try to take over, colonize before, when the American troops were helping the Afghanistanians. Now it seems like it will be easy for them to be able to just go, because apparently there's 3 provinces. If they do get their hands on those provinces, then the Afghanistan government is going down. Anyway, family, that's all we have for today. I don't want to drag it too much, because we already lost some footages at some point, and I don't know what happened. So that's all what we have today, just a mixed bag of information, what's been happening. Okay, I'm just interested here. It says here, 27 Zuma story has started Sunday Times on eggshells. No, sorry, this is from the international news channel. So I'm just surprised how they portray us in South Africa. So I don't know what happened with the story now. I wanted to say, let's just press it quick. So as I said, I don't want to drag the news too long for today, family. I think we've done enough for today, and my laptop is doing its own things today. So without wasting your time, I will say thank you very much, family, for sticking around, for coming and watching my channel, Kosa Chick TV. And I really appreciate all the support, all the likes, all the shares, all the comments, all the recommendations. I really, really appreciate it. Please, please, please don't forget to subscribe. And please, if you subscribe, do not unsubscribe. It takes the fun away. Please stick around. Maybe eventually you'll find what you're looking for in the channel. So we are really working hard to start cleaning up the house and so on. So I'm really trying my best as well. Please do not subscribe. If you subscribe, it's really not nice. So thank you, family. And for today, say bye until we meet again on Kosa Chick TV next week. Bye.